And welcome back to the booth here in Vancouver. Ian Duke, Marshall Sutcliffe, we are both thrilled and excited to bring you the third round of action here from Pro Tour Magic Origins. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Magic Origins. We're in Vancouver. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Ian Duke, and we are in the third and final round of our day one draft, where we have a Josh Utter-Leyton. You can see him there. He's playing a red-white aggressive deck, it looks like, and his opponent, Gerry Thompson, back on the Pro Tour here. Actually, a coworker of yours for quite a while.
That's right. Gerry was with us in R&D for about 6 months or so. And this is his first Pro Tour back on the tour.
All right, so let's see how this goes. We have what looks to be a pretty classic control versus aggro type matchup here, red-white versus blue-black. We've had a chance to take a look at the list. How do you think this is actually going to play out in practice here?
Well, certainly Raptors, Josh Utter-Leyton's red-white deck is the aggressor here. Gerry Thompson's blue-black deck is certainly more controlling. He's got a little bit of synergy in terms of self-mill and a couple cards like Cruel Revival and Possess Scob.
Wow, this is a slow start for Josh. We just saw an interesting play. Gerry led off with Screeching Scob. It's just a 2-1 that mills you for 2. Raptor used one of the best removal spells in the format, Fiery Impulse, to kill it right away.
Yeah.
What does that say to you?
It says to me that either Raptor has an extremely slow hand and isn't going to get on the board for
Raptor,
a
by the
couple
way,
turns.
is Josh Utter-Leyton's nickname. It's also his Magic Online.
His Magic Online handle, yeah, that's why we sometimes refer to him that way.
He's also very dinosaur-like.
Yep. Or that Josh Utter-Leyton is trying to get through with some renowned creatures, and maybe the Scob threatens to block those, so he just wants to be mana efficient early. But it looks like it's more the latter. Utter-Leyton really has not much in the way of early aggression. It's actually Gerry Thompson who's on the board with multiple creatures early here.
So Josh was going to take 6 or 8 damage from that Scob?
Yeah, that looked to be the case.
Crazy.
Yep. And
also, it trades for a Cobble Brood.
Exactly. It trades for a lot of his creatures, especially playing red-white. So many of your creatures are 2 toughness renowned creatures.
Wow. So we're getting set up for one of the most brutal plays in the format if it goes here. Chandra's Ignition in hand for Josh Utter-Leyton with Cobble Brood on the battlefield. Yeah. If Gerry taps out here or taps down low, we could see Josh wipe away the board and do 10 damage and with 1 spell here. Actually, you know what? The Husk would survive. He can make it into a 6/6, so I shouldn't say wipe away the board. Now that I look, it would actually kill 2 of Gerry's 3 creatures and get in for 10 if it were to go off. Chandra's Ignition is one of the swingiest cards we've seen in Limited for quite a while. If you resolve it in a decent spot, it'll usually win you the game, but you have to take on pretty significant risk to do so. Looks like Guardians of Meletus is what was drawn here.
Yep, got offense and defense cover. Yeah.
So this actually leaves Gerry's board pretty resilient to Chandra's Ignition. If cast on the Cobble Brood, it's 5 damage to everything, but Gerry could boost his Husk up to 6/6. And the Guardians, of course, has a natural 6 toughness. So that's not going to be enough of a game plan just by itself for Josh Utter-Leyton.
No, but the shields are down right now with only blue. And Josh is going to take the opportunity to make sure that his Totem Guide Heartbeats is going to resolve, giving him also Suppression Bonds in hand.
Yeah, it looks like now he has both copies of Suppression Bonds.
Wow, so his hand is actually quite good here.
Yeah. It looks like we're going to transition into a little bit of a longer game here, perhaps.
This is a nice deck for Utter-Leyton. He has Exquisite Firecraft in his hand as well. We already saw Fiery Impulse, and he's got Chandra's Ignition as well. But like you said, Ian, it looks like Josh is going to try to maneuver this board state to get more value, out of his Chandra's Ignition, kind of go for a longer game. He's at 12, and he's stabilized pretty well here.
Yeah, and speaking of powerful bomb cards, Thompson has a couple of his own. Copy of Languish in hand, which is his own sort of sweeper, -4/-4 to everything, and Alhammaret High Arbiter. So if the game goes long, Thompson's going to have a huge flying threat.
He's pretty far off now, though, having missed his 5th land drop a couple of times. So this is actually going to be a really cool game to see unfold, because Both players have drawn some of their most powerful spells. The question now is who can leverage their powerful bombs the best.
Okay. Good.
I think that was a Guardian Automaton for Josh. We'll see in a second. Yeah, that's what it is. So again, Josh content to just keep building out his board here. Gerry now in the tank here. Kind of a crazy update between Matej Zadelkai and Sean McLaren. Both players have Outland Colossus in play.
Wow.
Good.
It's kind of crazy. But there's a trump card being played by Sean McLaren. He's got Grasp of the Hieromancer, so it should work pretty well. In the meantime, this board has gotten even more built out. And still only 4 lands here for Thompson.
Now this is really interesting because normally you'd think Josh Utter-Leyton, sort of the onus is on him to be aggressive in the early game and end the game before Gerry's powerful threats can come online. But with Josh having Chandra's Ignition in his hand and under no immediate pressure to use it, he can kind of just sit back and actually let Gerry overextend into the board and eventually use the Ignition to clean things up. Although,
looks like Josh has fallen down to 5 life here. Does have the Guardian Automaton, which can gain him some life or die. But Gerry is attempting to go wide here, as we say. He's attempting just to get more creatures on board so that he can set up some type of a big attack in one big swing, but might force a Chandra's Ignition at some point in the near future. And it looks like he's going to play Suppression Bonds on the Husk. Now, we know that that is a preventative measure to make sure that the Husk dies after he Chandra's Ignitions at some point.
great point.
But it probably doesn't look that way to Gerry. And now Gerry, I think, might have figured out what's going on here, or at least be aware. Chandra's Ignition is so powerful the first time somebody plays it against you, it's like you kind of curl up into the fetal position and just cry a little bit. And now I think that Gerry has decided to leave up his Unholy Hunger here. Doesn't have any other play anyway, but he is going to wait and just sit back. And now things get awkward for Josh, right? If he wants to try to fire off the Ignition, now Gerry has the ability, there's 2 different removal spells that are non-rare that he can have here that can kill the creature out from underneath it. Again, you know, you and I were talking about Ignition when we were looking, and yeah, it looks like Josh is going for it
Oh,
here.
wow. This is right into
He is going
Gerry's
to get
Unholy
blown
Hunger.
out.
I'm gonna lightning bolt to end the turn. Ooh, wrapped.
So Gerry is going to use this Unholy Hunger, right? He has now gone thinking about it for quite a while.
Yeah, I can't imagine him not using it. But wisely, Josh used it on
Jeez.
the...
What a blowout. That has left Josh Utter-Leyton with a 2-5 and a 5-2.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Thompson has a pretty well built out board, but thankfully that Suppression Bond's holding down the Husk. But here he comes.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least Josh used it on the Guardian Automaton so he could gain 3 life there and keep the somewhat larger Cobble Brute.
Mm-hmm. This has him taking 4.
Sure. Okay, damage. Take 4. Discard. Yep.
And picking off the Dead Bridge Shaman is nice there for Josh because Josh has an extra land to discard.
Go.
And now you can see why Gerry made this play.
Right.
Mage Ring Bully in hand for Utter-Leyton. There's also a Necroan Sergeant. Wow, Josh's deck is insane. He's got a Scabcam Berserker too.
I'm done after that.
What is that, 3 rares in red that we've seen already?
Yeah.
Or not even that we've all seen. He's still got Exquisite Firecraft in his hand. But yeah, that Chandra's Ignition blowout is going to be really tough for Josh to recover from here and actually get a victory without something pretty special happening. Gerry has the Languish backup plan as well.
Resolve that and suck this. Yep. And pass.
And Gerry's setting up for another lethal attack next turn. Sacrificing his Guardians of Meletus to make sure that the Heart Beast hits the bin. So gear per Gear Crafter before, now it's a Crone Sergeant. Not bad. The Water Courser's not a bad draw either for Gerry. If Josh ever taps out, Gerry also has the option of sacking his board to one of his husks and then, or to his husk and then languishing and assuming that he still has lethal. He only needs to get in for 4. All right, there's Husk hitting the red zone, and Gearcrafter's going to block. Basically, it's just a trade.
Go.
Screeching Scob for Gearcrafter.
Looks like Erose's champion off the top.
That is one of 2 Erose's champion that Josh has.
And this is sort of nice for Josh here because it can actually block the Husk and force Gerry to sacrifice 2 creatures to the Husk if he wants to continue his 1-for-1 attacking.
Go. Go.
Yeah, however, here's the 7th land for Gerry. So we could see Alhammaret come down. Sure we do.
I'm sure that is exactly what's going to happen here. He's going to get a look at Josh's hand. He's going to be able to name a card here. That card can't be cast by your opponents.
And I'm sure he'll name Suppression Bonds.
Yep.
Name suppression bonds.
Sick read, Ian. And now he's got a big 5/5 flying lethal attacker for next turn. And he knows that Josh has 1 draw step to get out of it. And Bonds is not an out either.
Yeah, with only the Exquisite Firecraft for 4 points of damage, doesn't look like he'll be able to remove the Alhammaret.
Gerry's at a comfortable 20 life.
Though he does have 1 Thopter to block for a turn.
It's true.
Unfortunately, Exquisite Firecraft is a sorcery, so he can't combine that with the 1 point of damage from the Thopter.
You know, he drew an Enshrouding Mist. Could buy him yet another turn.
Yep, that's true.
So, of course, the problem if you're in Josh Utter-Leyton's seat is while surviving for a turn or 2 extra is nice, finding an actual answer to Alhammaret when you cannot play your suppression bonds is going to be a major issue.
What do you have?
Please play faster.
Go.
Yeah,
Scab Clan Berserker, pass the turn back. Languish and Swamp in hand for Gerry Thompson, so he's going to be relying on his board state to get him the rest of the way there. Looks like Gerry's going to send in with the Water Courser. It does trade for the champion.
Yeah, Champion on the Husk is nice because Gerry would have to sacrifice both of his other non-Alhammaret creatures to preserve the Husk.
Yeah. This doesn't look bad.
And I assume we're blocking Hamred as well.
And then the enshrouding mist also is a factor here.
Sergeant first. Pass.
The first strike of the Crone Sergeant preventing the water courser from being pumped as well. And there we go. We saw the bought himself a turn to Josh Utter-Leyton by using enshrouding mist on his Stopter token. And, you know, he has whittled down Gerry Thompson to just this Alhamret. Unfortunately, he still has to find an actual answer for it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, does he have any? I think it's a reasonable question at this
I think
point.
what he's hoping to draw here is Mighty Leap, actually, which is why he kept the Sergeant alive to get it to 3-3 with first strike. So a Mighty Leap off the top actually could threaten the Alhamret.
That's the Berserker, but it would.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Berserker.
But it still would have
Still
traded.
3-3, yeah.
Yeah. And now Josh can represent Celestial Flare, which he does not have, and Gerry Thompson is going to take down the first game.
Yeah, pretty interesting game.
All right, we'll be back after these messages.
Outfit your Magic collection with the newest Magic Origins accessories from Ultra Pro. You can see the full array of card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios showing off your favorite Magic artwork at ultrapro.com. 24 players, one shot at immortality. Watch the best players in the world battle for the Magic World Championship starting Thursday, August 27th from PAX Prime in Seattle, Washington.
And welcome back to the feature match area here. We're going to jump over and take a look at how Svi Moshewitz is doing. United States Hall of Famer there against Eugene Huang, a relative newcomer. Has had a lot of success this year. Svi is a veteran of the highest order. He is up a game here against Eugene.
Looks like an Archangel of Tithes on Svi's side of the board.
Oh, no. That thing is difficult to beat. Eugene, you can see in his graveyard there, has a Planeswalker. That was a Nissa. But she has been dealt with otherwise.
Attack.
It's like 4 damage in the air against Eugene, who's going to drop down to 12. And there's a Ring Warden Owl as a follow-up play for Moshewitz. Wow, he does have a lot of flyers.
Yeah.
Four of his 5 creatures have flying. I guess he is the blue-white deck to its core here, isn't he? He's not attacking with his Archangel of Tithes.
Yeah.
Here's an Amprint Tactician. That is going to have a pretty profound effect on Eugene's creatures. They all get +1/+1, and they all attack. And he has to pay 5 extra mana because of Archangel of Tithes, leaving him with just 1 left. This is really cool. They've this game has gone on for quite a while, and it looks like it's gone on for so long that Eugene actually just has enough mana to pay for this level of attacks here. With even through an Archangel.
Yeah,
of
very
Tithes.
impressive. Normally we think of the Archangel as like a tempo card that slows your opponent down a lot in the early game. We're not in the early game anymore.
These lands are the product of Nissa as a planeswalker. She got a couple of extra lands into play at least, and also left behind her friend, that token down there.
Those are my box.
Which is a 4/4, well, actually a 5/5 in this current scenario.
3, 4, 9. Yeah. Go to 9.
So even with these blocks, Svi
Yeah.
took half of his life total down to 9 from 18. Another update Big Z, Matej Zatlakai, has won against Sean McLaren 2-0, and he's won his pod 3-0. Good start for Matej.
Well,
Now we'll see if they came up with a sweet standard deck. Svi has Eugene down to 12. Svi's up a game in the match. All right, looks like you can see on our upper right-hand screen there that our main table's just underway. So why don't we just jump back over there? I got to see how this thing goes. That first game was super cool. And it's a Maritime Guard to start things off for Gerry Thompson.
yeah, and that's actually out of the sideboard for him. So he's seen Josh's red-white deck with lots of renowned creatures and aggression, and just brought in a 1/3 to block. I like it.
Also makes reasonable food for the Nantuko Husk that followed up. Here's a Gear Crafter. Gosh, that card's good.
Yeah, it sure is. One of my favorite red cards for sure.
Second best red common?
I think so. That's where I put it. I think it's there
Fire
are some other
Impulse and-
debatable options. Yeah, Fiery Impulse I think is the one that's clearly above it.
I know you're a Boggart Brute fan as well.
Yep, sure am.
I am too. I'm sure Josh Utter-Leyton is as well. And here is, it's got to be my favorite card in the set. Separatist Void Mage.
Separatist Void Mage,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's my guy right there.
Yep.
And it's going to be used to great effect here. Take care. It actually killed a creature this time.
Go.
Bounce effects, of course, being extra potent in this format because of Renown. Resetting
Indeed.
a Renown creature that your opponent worked hard to get through is pretty brutal.
You heard people call that guy Mana 4.
I like that.
All right. So Jerry's kind of worked his way
Go.
through the board state of Josh, who follows up with, well, it's a Cobble Brute. Not great here. Just trades for the Separatist Void Mage there. But this is good for Jerry. Gerry T adding a Ring Warden Owl to his board. All
Fiery
right, so
Impulse.
Svi ended up winning that game that we were watching where he had all the flyers, including the Archangel of Tides, and he wins his match 2-0. And the musical chairs continues on our King of the Hill match, which is just off camera. A new King of the Hill, Scott Lipp. So far, we have had a change of King of the Hill every round. So maybe it's the cursed seat for this PT. And this is, of course, our last match on camera.
No box.
You saw the Fiery Impulse take down the Void Mage.
Cruel Revival takes out Cobble Brute, brings back Nantuko Husk.
Oof, that's a huge blow to the campaign of a Josh Utter-Leyton.
And Jerry has picked up Alhammaret and his 6th land in the meantime.
Yeah, he just needs one more land to do it. Wow, this is just a beating from Gerry T here.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed here. I haven't had too much success so far with
13.
these slower, more controlling decks, but Jerry's has been pretty convincing.
Yeah, it feels like a tempo deck
Go.
more than anything to me. He keeps just getting ahead. He's getting some card advantage.
Right.
He plays the Separatist.
But in this case, using the tempo to actually slow things down a little bit to get online powerful threats like Alhammaret.
Yeah. And he's got the island. So Big Al.
Yeah, let's take a peek at that.
Let's see the hand, says Jerry. And he's going to like what he sees.
Suppression bonds.
Suppression bonds.
Yep.
All right. All the same, obviously. Good.
That was kind of an interesting little sub note. Jerry was actually checking the artwork on the planes that Josh was running to make sure that if he could note that it was any different to see if it was played and maybe give him more information. Of course, he says, well, they're all the same artwork, obviously, because, you know, the high-level players will often make sure that the lands are all the same.
Though
for
notably,
that
Gerry
tiny
has
edge.
not done that. So sort of conceding that, of course, Josh Utter-Leyton would do that, but
Yes.
can't be bothered to do it himself.
To be fair, it does come up so infrequently
Yes.
that you could make an argument that the extra 30 seconds you take sifting for the right lands is time better spent having a glass of water. But I do like that Gerry is thinking on that level and paying attention. In the meantime, speaking of thinking on the level, Gerry is wrecking here in the air.
Yep.
And I'm assuming he's got a lethal attack next turn,
With
'Cause-
Unholy Hunger as backup, just in case anything goes wrong.
even if there's a flying blocker of some sort. My goodness. Now, these players are 2-0. This is the finals of their draft pod. There is a Thopter there for Josh, so he gets the chump block, it looks like. But you can see how these guys got here. Does Josh have something else to get? What is it, another suppression bonds?
Yeah, he may just be thinning it out of his library.
Yeah. Or for the possibility that El Hammeret were to die at some point. Now this does clear the way for lethal here. And that's going to do it. Gerry Thompson, 3-0.
Nicely
Welcome
done.
back, sir. We're gonna actually have a word with Gerry in a few minutes here, but a solid start for Josh Utter-Leyton. He goes 2-1, not quite winning his draft pod, but he ran into what looked like a very good deck, and of course a very good player in Gerry Thompson there. So, what stood out to you?
Mostly just that Gerry was able to slow down the game with his tempo cards and sort of navigate toward his powerful endgame. And I think that really worked out for him well.
Yeah, and that was kind of a beating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like looking
Those
at
games looked pretty lopsided.
yeah, like if you looked at Josh Utter-Leyton's deck list, you and I were browsing it here. I mean, he has some really solid. We saw the
Yeah.
exquisite Firecraft, the 2 bonds. He's got the Totem
Chandra's
Guide
Ignition.
Heartbeast, the Ignition.
Yeah.
The Scab Clan Berserker, so I'm sure that maybe the draws didn't line up too well or whatever, but Gerry's deck looked super good too.
Yeah, it sure did.
I'm not surprised at all to see these two super powerful decks meet in the final. So I want to get your thoughts. We're getting set up to talk to Gerry T in just a moment here, but overall, you put a lot of work in on this set, right?
Yeah, I was actually on both the design and the development teams.
Okay, I'm gonna get you on that in a minute, but
Sure.
right now let's head down to the feature match area where Tim Willoughby is with Gerry T.
Hello and welcome to the feature match area. I'm Tim Willoughby, here with Gerry Thompson. Now, there's no better way to start a Pro Tour than 3-0 in your draft, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in this spot before, actually. So it's kind of weird.
But you'll take it. And it looks like there was quite a lot of mass removal involved in the finals of that draft. How do you think Language squares up against what Josh had going on?
I mean, it's certainly good against his deck. It just kills basically all of his creatures except for the random 2/5 or whatever. And my draw ended up being good enough that I didn't actually need it, so that's always a bonus too. But Languish was by far my best card. That was my first pick in pack 1, and that's what drove me into blue-black control. So that card's excellent.
Now, of course, that's the end of our draft now. We're going to be moving into Constructed for 5 rounds for the rest of the day. I tend to think of you as more of a Constructed player. Yeah. How's your preparation been for this one?
I wanted to go pretty hard and limited, and I think it went well. I mean, like, obviously being results-oriented, I went 3-0. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm great drafting or anything, but I understand everything, so that's good. But I had Brad Nelson on my team who did a lot of the heavy lifting for Standard, so anything that comes from that is thanks to him, for sure.
Fantastic stuff. Of course, none of us yet know exactly what the deck's going to be. I think that, though, it's fair to say Magic Origins has done a reasonable amount to this Constructed format, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely some nice cards in this set. Jace is one of them. Hangerback Walker is another. Those are the two that I expect to be just like huge breakout cards this weekend. We have neither in our deck, so maybe we're doing it wrong. Who knows? But we'll see.
And of course, I think the last time I interviewed you at a Pro Tour, a little while ago, Pro Tour Gate Crash, that one worked out very, very well for you. There you did very well in Limited. Is that kind of the key these days? You can't just be Constructed, you got to do a bit of both?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like the tournament, like the majority of it is constructed. The top 8 is constructed. If you want to win the tournament, like you have to be very good at constructed. But you see a lot of people just making the top 8 off of backs of very good limited records. You know, you go 5-1, you go 6-0, and then you can go, you know, like X and 3 and constructed, and that's much easier than trying to like 10-0 constructed when, you know, it's standard. The card level, like power level, is relatively flat. Everyone's got good decks. You know, it's tough to 10-0. Like draft is where you get your edge, I think.
And edge achieved, at least for today.
So far, yes.
3-0 today, about to move into constructed. Best of luck, Gerry Thompson. Hope to see plenty more of you in the feature match area right here at Pro Tour Magic Origins.
Hey there, welcome back to the booth here. Marshall Sutcliffe with Ian Duke. Ian, before we head over to the news desk, I did want to get a quick, so you're in R&D. Mm-hmm. You make these sets, and you get a chance to come out here and see them played with the best players in the world. What was your first impressions after watching the draft for Limited?
I was pretty pleased with it. We saw a variety of different decks win. We saw some unusual strategies. I was really impressed with Paul Rietzel's Sphinx's Tutelage deck. That was pretty cool to see. But yeah, it looked like a lot of the themes that we tried to instill in the set were working well. We saw some aggressive renown decks. We saw some controlling blue-black. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the diversity that we saw there in the draft portion.
Okay, so I'm glad it got a good grade from one representative in R&D. Let's head over to the news desk, though, where Richard Hagan awaits.
Well, no lie, that format is quite fast. You may have spotted this. My goodness gracious me. Make sure you get your early drops. That's my takeaway from the morning of draft action. We'll do it all again tomorrow when everyone who gets to 4-4 or better gets another crack at Magic Origins draft. All right. It is lunchtime here on the show, and that means that one of the most long-awaited features of the Magic season is coming your way in just a moment. It is time for the announcement of the 2015 class of the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour Hall of Fame.